I'll take us on to Batman issue 62, Tom King writing, Mitch Gerrard's on the art. This is the second of the Nightmares arc, which is kind of an arc. It's kind of basically 6 standalone kind of stories, which is having a break in the middle for the Flash crossover. But this is 2 of 6 in terms of these standalone stories. This one is Batman, who seems to have been held captive by Professor Pig, although things might not be quite what they seem. And this one acknowledges the cliffhanger from issue 60 a lot more than the last one did, where Batman starts to remember that seemed, he's like, oh wait, didn't that happen? Yeah, that's how I got here. How did I get here? Which
I'm just gonna say I have no idea what's going on anymore in this book.
That's fair. I'm assuming that this is either hallucination or what would you call it? Flashpoint Batman is either drugged him or there's a scarecrow toxin involved. I have no idea. Something's doing something to him. And this is kind of like a scenario in his head that he's because the whole thing's told from, obviously comic narration is very normal, like for the character to be narrating what they're doing.
But it's first person.
Yeah, this one's very specific, where he's like, you even hear his doubts, where he's kind of like thinking his thought process. It's a lot more specific than normal. As he's trying to like unhook himself, it's very Texas Chainsaw. He's kind of up on a hook, and then he's trying to like get out. And he's having like knife fights with Professor Pig, who I'm delighted to see again. Honestly, I like Professor Pig a lot. And Mitch Gerrard's art's very good. Surprising.
Also,
no one.
Also, I never picked up on the Pygmalion and Professor Pig. I don't know if that was intentional on Morrison's part, but that's kind of what he always tries to do, is try to make them his beauties.
Knowing Grant Morrison, I'm pretty sure it was intentional.
Yeah. So,
I'm pretty sure it was intentional.
But Connor, was this the issue that you said Gerrard's was going to try some new
coloring
stuff?
techniques?
Yeah. So I feel this is kind of what Snyder wanted the colors to do on Witches, but this actually pulled it off.
Yeah, it has this disorientated feel to it. It feels like it's just not quite real. It's out of sync with reality almost. It has that kind of feel to it.
But there's like the layover of the colors, and it makes everything kind of blurry and murky, and it really worked. Like that's the part of the issue
that it reminded me of. You know, the old 3D, the blue and red 3D.
Yeah.
Kind of remind me of that at points.
Yeah, without it looking shit like that.
I didn't mean that as a criticism, just the effect that it was giving.
Yeah, it's almost like Batman's in a daze, and you get that effect from all the art. But so after Wednesday, Connor happened to mention that he's got opinions on this. So me and Matt have came prepared for a nice 10-minute tirade. We're going to settle in and let Connor, because I assume this is going to be absurdly negative.
Well, I hate this issue.
I'm sure. I'm not surprised.
I hate everything except the art.
Do tell.
Here we go.
Just let him go.
I genuinely hated this from the first page because I can't stand this narration. I think this narration is hideously bad, and it's the least Batman thing that King has done yet. It's too far into Batman's head to a point where it stops working for me.
So while I agree to parts, I don't go as far because I like the narration.
I like the narration as well.
I don't like the events of this. Like I don't, and a lot of it comes from lack of context and clarity. But
yeah, there's that too.
I feel like the narration here is Batman desperate because he doesn't know where he is. So this is not his normal thought process.
Yeah,
there's points that I really hate in terms of the way the narration is written. Though there's a bit where he gets off the hook, and Pig stabs him, and he's like, he goes, "No, you fool! You assumed to be scared." And then there's a in brackets, and then there's a bit, why are you scared? I'm like, oh, I hate all of this. The extra narration the extra internal narration on the internal narration. Oh no.
Yeah, see, and that's why I agree. It goes a little bit too far, but most of it did work for me up until the end, and then I'm just like,
yeah, the narration for me was fine. I was into the narration. I think there's some critiques to have with this issue. Well, not even so much this issue specifically. Bizarrely, this is a very, of course, abstract issue. It's very kind of like, all right, David Lynch almost, where like you have to kind of interpret what's going on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
I give King a lot of credit for trying new stuff in a book like Batman.
Yeah.
So
here's the thing though. Like, I think the biggest problem with this arc, this Nightmares arc, now they could obviously prove us wrong with any of the next 4 issues of this, right? Obviously, it's not the next 4 issues of Batman because it's taking a break for 2. They could prove us wrong and kind of like justify why these things need to be here. But we left off in that big cliffhanger with Flashpoint Batman. Bruce comes out of the cave, Alfred's there, and he's like, "Oh, it's your father," and he's like, that's where we left off, right? Big cliffhanger, and I was really loving the stuff right before that. I think the build up to that was really good. I love Cold Days. I loved the going to fight Bane, because that was stuff where Connor wasn't necessarily loving it either, but I was like. Yeah. I was adamantly defending that because I loved that stuff.
I have never been as down on the book as these last couple of issues.
One of my favorite moments was Gordon going and smashing the bat signal. Like, that was to show you just how low Batman has gone mentally since the lack of the wedding.
So here's the thing. I like this a little bit more when I read it again today, because it's almost that thing where, like, going into it a second time, okay, I know what it is now. I don't have to, like, be disappointed that it's not, like, advancing the plot. I can just take it for what it is. I do think it's an issue we're getting 6 cities before we get back to the main plot, though. I think that's a problem.
Do you know, this is the first time where I've gone, I don't actually want to read the next issue. Not obviously not the next, the next issue's crossover, right?
Well,
is that the next issue? Is that the one after?
No, I think there's 2 more. Or is it 1 more than the crossover?
Is it next month's?
It's one. Yeah, it's 1 more than February's the crossover issues.
Right. So yeah, I was like, I don't know. I don't actually want to read it. Like, and I've, as bad as as whenever I've had problems with this book, I've never been at a point where I even considered for a second quitting reading the book.
Yeah, I don't. No, this is not the weakest issue for me by a long shot. I think the Ivy arc, I think the 2-part Wonder Woman story are weaker points for me. Yeah, this is a weird issue, but at least some of the internal kind of themes of it are ringing true for me. The idea of, like, if you go back to Pygmalion, and the idea of, like, loving your creation and how that relates to Batman here, where he created the Robins, he created his Bat family, and he fell in love with his creation. He fell in love with Selina, and he proposed to her. Because probably the best page of the book is where he really kind of cuts to the chase with what he's thinking about. Yep. And he talks about, and he never quite says it, but it's like it all kind of blew up in his face. Dick got shot. Selina said no. His entire world that he thought he had control over crumbling. And I think that's, if you go into Pygmalion, I think you're thinking about, if you created something, you feel like you have control over it, and Batman's always been someone who's about control. And it's the idea that even in his, like, emotions, even when it comes to his personal life, even if he doesn't consciously think about it this way, the idea of him losing control over it and it all, like, crumbling because he doesn't control it, because he can't control it.
It's his biggest fear.
Yeah, it's kind of what's hitting him here, right? The ending where Professor Pig takes off the mask and it's Damien, my interpretation of that is that he's scared of what he's making Damien become as a father because of what Thomas has made him.
Okay, but why use Pig, though? Does it tie back into Morrison? Because they were both Morrison creations? I
think it's more for the Pygmalion puns and referencing that we can do. That's my best answer for you.
I don't know, like...
Maybe it ties in thematically, because what you said, with how Pig ties into Pygmalion, where he tries to create, he has these creations, he falls in love, he's all about, perfecting his craft.
Yeah, so without the context, again, I find it real hard to get a beat on this, because it was, to me, it was a painful read. Like, just with the art was fine, like, but yeah, but I think that's what they were going for, so it's very up in the air if I liked it or not.
I think we're in a problematic arc of Batman, and we've had problematic arcs before. The weird thing here is we know it's going to be 4 more, 8 more issues technically, but 4 more issues of this specifically before we get back to the main ongoing plot.
Yeah, I think is this it now till we got another arc before after this, before 75. This is up to like 69, isn't it? I think this.
Yeah, so we'd have to.
Yeah, there's another arc.
And that's 6.
Yeah,
so that'd be another arc. So I was trying to look at the context. If we look at the Bruce Wayne kid who has Thomas and Martha under his eyes, and then we look at Damien, and it's almost like he's afraid, like Pete was hitting at, he's afraid of what Damian has become, right? Because if you look at just how bad Bruce could have turned out, but didn't, because that's the one kid character from the last issue, and everything's through his point of view. And then this one where he takes off Pig's mask and it ends up being Damian.
Do you know what I think would have made this better? Like, no, seriously, is if Damian had had any sort of presence in this run whatsoever.
Yeah, really, the last time we saw him was when Bane hung him from a thing with the other Robins.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Like,
No, it wasn't. It
was the last time we saw him.
No, it was when Batman went off with Catwoman to see Talia, and the Robins were all hanging around together.
Oh yeah.
That was much more recent.
Okay,
that was Damian.
He's not had a real presence in the book, which was never a problem. Because okay, fine, Robin, Damian or Robin, any Robin isn't really part of this story.
But if Pete's hitting on like if this is about fatherhood and about Thomas and like, you know what I mean? Then of course you would use the actual natural side, not the ones that he adopted.
No, you would, and I'd have a similar problem with any of the other Robins being used here, though, in that there's no context for any of those Robins in this run. It's like, oh yeah, I suppose we should use one of those. That's the thing.
Look, now taking what Connor's saying, I almost wish it was Dick, because it's this thing that he created is what got Dick shot, and that would almost make more sense.
That would make more sense.
You know what I mean? That's his first kid. It's the one he put the time and effort into, and why he left KG Beast out to die. You know what I mean? Whereas Damien just kind of showed up and was like, "Yeah, I'm your kid," and he's like, "This can't be true." Oh wait, it is true. And I'll take him under.
Kind of sums it up, yeah.
Yeah, right. Like,
I think Joe, the weird thing about this issue is, I think if it was just one issue of this, it'd be fine, and it wouldn't be a big deal.
I mean, I would still personally not like the narration, but
that's fine.
The lack of context would probably.
But having 6 standalone issues like this back to back, right after a big cliffhanger, feels really weird. It feels like we're just delaying before we get back to the proper.
Because now I assume we're 70 through 74 are going to be the fallout from that cliffhanger properly, and then 75 is this new kicking off this new event. So, it feels like a really long time to wait to get the resolution.
And I didn't hate this issue. Like, there's things about it I like, especially when I read it again. But it does feel kind of weird. Like, obviously, like, we have double shipping, and that helps with things like this where you have an issue that's a bit of a tangent because it feels, oh, well, you get the next issue and it's fine. The pacing still feels decent that way.
The problem is, that the next issue is one of these as well.
Yeah, because I have no problem with doing some cryptic issues here or there.
Yeah, me either. I just feel though like this is a little bit too far in that direction.
63 is going to be to do with Constantine.
Jesus Christ.
It's strange goings on in the dark alleys of Gotham, mysteries that require a different skill set than the Cape Crusaders. John Constantine is a person with just those skills, but after the events of the Witching Hour, is Constantine in any condition to help the Dark Knight?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to just take the title of this literally. It's nightmares. They're literally. Not that they're not being induced in some way, perhaps, but clearly these are all just worst case scenarios in Bruce's head. Well.
Yeah. So what are we rating this one? I know Connor's going to be like super low. Like.
I will tell you now, any points I do give will be just for the art. Because the art's pretty good. I got nothing to, other than my stupid nitpick about the Baron, which isn't really a nitpick. I actually have nothing to complain about the art at any stage. It's fantastic.
Okay.
So
it's a 3.
Oh, shit. So now we know that if you have fantastic art, you're still only getting 3 points out of it.
Well, no. See, if you have fantastic art and a mediocre issue, you can get higher than that quite comfortably. I will give you. Oh, you can get a 7 based on just fantastic art if the story is inoffensive. But when it makes me angry and I hated reading it, that drags it back down.
Matt.
Yeah, so this is a 5.5 because like the art really does the heavy lifting. But I had it at a 5, but I gave it over the conversation we had. I bumped it up a half a point.
Yeah, I think I'll probably go with 6.5. Like, I liked it more than you guys, more than Matt a little bit, a lot more than Connor. I think what it needed was just a little bit of context at the end. Like, see if we just cut to what was actually, if we cut to like him actually lying on a table somewhere, and just got a little bit of context that said, here's what's kind of happening in the real world.
I think you'll probably get that at the end of 69 now, at the end of this arc, leading into, you know, the immediate aftermath.
Give me a breadcrumb. Give me a breadcrumb to give me some kind of idea of what's going on. It's maybe just like, it's not even so much the abstract way in which the story is told. It's so abstract in terms of context that it could use just a little bit more to kind of set it in place. I kind of like what the torture Batman's going through in his head. It's just that the actual story of how it's happening in this issue is just a little bit random and kind of whatever. Because I like some stuff. I liked him getting stabbed and be like, ha, he gave up his weapon, and then he throws a knife at him but hits him, handle first. Little things like that were fun. But I still thought it was an easy enough read though. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that it was a difficult to read, but
I didn't think it was difficult to read. It's the lack of context and you know what I mean.
But yeah, so that's Batman, ever divisive. Although this one it was maybe more leaning towards negative in general.